This is a Telegram bot posting fresh AI news into a real group automatically. Now I'll show you how it was built. The trigger is simple. One mission prompt goes into Codex CLI, and the build starts inside the live environment. First the result, then the full chain. The sequence starts on the Sell.Systems practice page, then moves straight into Telegram. This is the real working path used during the build, not a cleaned-up reenactment after the fact. Here in BotFather, I am creating the actual bot identity the workflow will use later. That is why the browser switching matters. The practice page, Telegram, and the runtime are all part of the same live setup flow. At this stage, the important thing is not just copying a token. The important thing is that the project now has a real sender. Without that, the automation later can look convincing on screen and still have nothing real to publish from. Once the bot exists, the Telegram side has a real source of identity. That is why the next browser switches matter. I am not changing tabs randomly. I am moving between the same real components the final workflow will depend on later. Now I move to the delivery target. The next step is creating the Telegram group that will actually receive the content. This is the moment the destination becomes real. There is now a live group waiting on the other side of the workflow. Then I add the bot as an admin. That permission step is essential. Without it, the later automation could look perfect on the canvas and still fail at the only moment that counts, when it tries to publish into the group. After that, I copy the real group ID. This turns a generic idea into a real target. The system now knows exactly where future posts are supposed to land, and that means the next configuration steps can point at a real destination instead of a placeholder. Next, I move into Node-RED and bring in the Telegram side of the runtime on the same practice canvas. Before I ask the AI agent to assemble the bigger flow, I want the environment to know how to talk to Telegram at all. Now the starter path begins to matter. I am not trying to prove the full automation yet. I am proving that the runtime can already talk to Telegram in a way I can inspect directly on the canvas. Once the Telegram receiver is connected and the debug path is visible, the setup starts behaving like a real system. The bot, the group, and the environment are already tied together before the main AI build begins. So, before the prompt ever hits Codex, the foundation is already in place. There is a real bot, a real group, real admin rights, a real group ID, and a real path into node red. That is why this section matters. Each visible step removes one more way the later automation could fail. The sender is real. The target is real. The permissions are real. The connection is real. By the time the AI build starts, the environment already has something solid to build on. Now I update the mission prompt so the build targets the exact Telegram group I want to use. This is the moment the video is really about. I paste one mission prompt into Codex CLI, and the agent starts turning that written mission into a working automation chain inside the live environment. From here on, the system is no longer being set up, it is being assembled. This is where the value changes. The agent is not just describing what should exist, it is operating inside the environment and building toward a real Telegram outcome. That is the difference between a chat answer and an execution path you can inspect later. As the build progresses, the important thing to watch is not just terminal activity. Watch the handoff from text instructions to structured workflow logic. The mission prompt is being translated into actual steps that will later show up as a usable flow. This is also where approval and execution start to matter. The run is no longer about generating words. It is about producing a real build path that can land as a Telegram automation you can actually use, validate, maintain, and extend. By the time the build settles, the value is already clear. One mission prompt has helped assemble the backbone of a system that can publish fresh AI news automatically, instead of leaving you with another one-off conversation and a list of instructions to implement by hand. So, I go back to the result. The post is live in Telegram, and now the question is not whether it worked. The question is how the finished flow is structured. Here you can see the simpler side of the automation. This manual test path makes the whole system easier to understand and easier to maintain because it gives you a clean way to validate behavior before you touch the full production chain. That matters in real work. You can open the test input, see the target group, the topic, the language, and the message path clearly, and understand what this side of the workflow is responsible for. That is what makes the system inspectable instead of mysterious. Now, we move into the production path. This is where the automation stops being a proof of concept and starts looking like a real content pipeline. You can already see the difference in the operator entry point. This side carries the prompt, the content mode, the language, and the live Telegram target for recurring output. This is what turns the project into a Telegram AI news workflow rather than a simple test sender. This is where content is prepared, routed, and moved toward a repeatable publishing result instead of staying stuck at the demo stage. And this is the part the right viewer should care about most. You can open the payload shaping logic itself, inspect how the message is prepared, and keep the system editable. That is what makes it useful for actual operations, not just impressive on screen. So, the full chain is here. Create the bot, create the group, connect the real target, update the mission prompt, run the build, inspect the finished flow, and repeat the same pattern for real work inside Sell.Systems.